Hello and welcome to our special edition of Touched by Prayer. I'm Lila Shaw. I'm your guest host today, and we have a very, very special show for you guys today. Today we have swapped seats, and I get to interview your host, Lisa Perna. And I am so excited to be able to do this. I have known Lisa now for over a couple of years, and we met in Charlotte, North Carolina, where we went with to see a mutual friend who, David Hayes, praying medic, who was going to be on the Supernatural. And it was just a phenomenal time anyway. But a lot of us got together to support Dave, to support our friends. And while we were there, we all got together and had dinner. And I'll never forget this. This has just always stuck out in my mind. And this is why I thought it would be cool to share. I was sitting at the table. I didn't get to sit with all the other people. It was kind of overlapped. And I was kind of sitting at this other table with a couple of other of our friends whom I had never met. And in walks Lisa Perna. And when she came in the door, I'm telling you, she came in with this presence. She came in with this joy. She came in with this excitement. And I was thinking, wow, I really would love to know her. She just put off this presence of joy and happiness and love. And then she sat down next to me and we got to talking, and it was like we had been friends for years and years and years. And through this amazing friendship, I have gotten to be a part and be with her in many other things in her life, including be on her show a few times, including going to Daddy's Girls, including just being really good friends and talking with each other, praying with each other. And I've gotten to see all the great things God has been doing in her life and all the amazing things going on in the show. And she is coming up on close to 200 episodes. And I thought, wow, that is so cool. What an amazing accomplishment. And I thought it would be really fun for her viewers to get to see another side of her and maybe see some different sides and get to hear about her and her life and just these amazing stories that I've gotten to hear about her that I thought maybe others hadn't got to see. So if you guys are ready, let's introduce Lisa Perna and bring her on.
Hey guys,
Hi.
How is everyone doing?
So how you doing, Lisa?
I am doing good. You're doing great.
How does it feel to be on the other side?
It's interesting.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
definitely interesting.
Yeah, I thought this would be really fun, and I thank you for letting me come on and be your guest host. And I thought it'd be fun just to start off real quickly, everybody. I just wanted to ask her some quick questions, just some fun questions about things that, we all might not know about her, just fun things. And one of the things a couple of the questions I wanted to know was your favorite color. I already know this, but.
Well, my favorite color is purple.
I knew that. Favorite ice cream.
Yeah, my favorite ice cream is coffee.
Ooh.
Coffee ice cream.
You can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't.
Favorite place you've ever visited?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Oh, and
Great.
Hawaii, also Nashville. Gotta say,
Nashville
has my heart. But Hawaii was breathtaking.
Yeah. Okay. And what is your favorite thing about the show that so far?
Oh, my favorite thing about the show, about doing Touched by Prayer, has been definitely hearing the stories and seeing how God moves from person to person. Yet I can still see that same part of God that I know and love. Like but it's always like a different facet. Yeah. I think
awesome.
that's it. And
awesome.
the stories have strengthened my faith. The stories that the people I've interviewed have blown me away and have brought me into a place where I would like to go to higher levels with God.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, and we both love people, and we love to hear stories. So I'd like to start to go back. I'd like to just like introduce you, like the people may not know you. Why don't you just give us a little rundown on like maybe how you grew up and things like that?
Okay, so let's see. Okay, I was born in New Jersey, so I'm a Jersey girl. Can't take the Jersey
girl.
out of me. I'm a Jersey girl. But what's been, I think the thing about growing up here in New Jersey, I was raised Catholic. My mother would always send us to church because church was very, very important to her. So we would have to go to church because we would have to bring the offering, because my mother was about making sure that that offering got into the Catholic thing. I think she thought she could buy her way into heaven. What actually happened, we lived here until I was in 8th grade, and then right after 8th grade we moved to Florida. So a lot of people don't know I actually went to high school in Florida. So
really?
Yeah, say a lot of people don't know that. And
where at?
I actually lived in a small town called Palm Bay, which was next to Melbourne. Okay. And which was 20 minutes south of Cocoa Beach. I got to see all the space shuttles, which was pretty cool. And I was only 10 minutes away from the beach. So, you know, being in Florida, you would wear your bathing suit underneath your clothes. So as soon as school got out, you like went right to the beach. So the beach is a big thing for me. And that's really where I started to spend time with God, because I always knew God. I always prayed to God, even as a little girl. I always had a relationship with him. I always talked to him. And it's funny, my very first memory of God, and I forgot about it until he reminded me. I guess I was like 7, must have been 7 years old. And I was sitting in the kitchen with my sister. And I said to her, let's play telephone. Now, this is in the 70s where you actually had to use a rotary dial.
Right.
And we pretended to, I said, let's call heaven. That's what I said. So I said, let's call heaven. And so I picked up my imaginary telephone and I started to call heaven. And I heard a voice and it said, hello, heaven. And I said, hi, I'd like to speak to God. And he said, who is this? And I said, this is Lisa. And he said, 1 second, Lisa. And then God took my phone call. So I've always had, that's gonna make me cry. He's always had my phone number. Right. He's always had my phone number. And he always accepts my phone calls. So when we moved to Florida, I actually started to go to a Baptist church. So when I went to this Baptist church, I started, and it was a youth group, and we had so much fun. But I was very geeky in school. I was like in chorus.
Who wasn't?
Well, I was in chorus. I was in drama, you know. So, you know, I was all about the theater and singing and all that. So what happened is somebody I met in chorus was in this youth group. And so I started to go to youth group with her. And we did some we did a couple what's it called? Little vacations. So we would actually like go on trips. So one of the trips that we went canoeing. We went canoeing down the Peace River in Florida, which is I guess it's kind of in Miami. So, and that there was we did Bible study, we did worship, we did all this stuff. I mean, it wasn't, they didn't believe in the gifts of the Spirit, but it was very solid biblical. So, and I just fell in love with Jesus. And so I gave my life to Christ at 16. I was water baptized at 16. And my mother was very upset about this. And so
because you guys had a very strong Catholic.
Yeah. And so my mother said, you can't be Baptist because you're Catholic. And so I don't know how she did it, because according to the rules and regulations nowadays, in order to make confirmation, you have to go through some training and school and all this kind of stuff. I don't know what she did, but she got me confirmed. She got me confirmed, and I made my confirmation. And I had to kind of pull away from this Baptist church, but I still gave my heart to Jesus.
Right.
So
I was the same way. I don't have a time where people say I got saved at this age. I know there was an age where I paid more attention, but I always knew there was, I don't never remember a time thinking there's no God, or I wonder if there's a God. Now there was times I wondered, certain things, but I don't have a story where I was, saved, although I have times where I've obviously knew him better. So you dedicated your heart at 16.
yes.
So like a lot of us, when we have Jesus is always there and he's always speaking to us. So you probably kind of had that upbringing, but kind of went and, just didn't have a lot of, things to kind of point you in the right direction.
No. And what's really funny is that God always spoke to me. Like
Mm-hmm.
he would tell me to go and do things. Like he told me to go to this comedy club called Rascals Comedy Club in West Orange, New Jersey. And I heard the voice and it said, go to Rascals. And so I went to Rascals to go get a job, which I got a job right away. And I always felt that Rascals was important because I met some really incredible people there, including my husband.
Oh, okay.
And so God would always send me places. And he told me to go to a place called Macy's. And that's where I met this girl and I introduced her to my husband's best friend, and they've been married and they have 3 beautiful children. So that's it's awesome. Like, so God's always, he's always talked to me. He's always talked to me.
Same here.
But there was a time that God really spoke to me, and it was probably one of the most difficult times. Is in 2002, my mother was in a house fire. And while she was in the house fire, she was in a medically induced coma. And it was during that time that God spoke to me. And I'll never forget the first thing that he said to me, because I wanted to pray for my mother. And so there was something that kind of happened. And I'm sorry, I'm there's like feathers falling.
Of course there is.
Of course there is. So, but what happened is I got down on my knees and I started to pray for my mother. And the Lord said to me, he said, Lisa, you can't pray for her until you forgive her. No. Now I didn't know any of that. Like I didn't read the Bible. At that point, Catholics weren't told to read the Bible. So there was something that happened that God said, okay, you need to say, I'm sorry, or forgive your mom for the things that had happened in your life. And and the Lord, so I did, and he told me how to do it. So I wrote everything down that she did. I forgave her as I wrote it, and I read it back to myself, and I forgave her. And then he told me to burn it and rip it up. So I did. But what that happened is now I was able to pray for my mother without having any ill will towards her. Because if you haven't forgiven somebody, you can't pray for them, which is, I didn't even know that was biblical. But God, during the entire time, and in 2002, my mother was in this medically induced coma for 6 weeks. During that time, my husband's grandmother died. My mother's mother died, not because of the house fire. We still don't know what the heck happened, but she died. And then my father-in-law passed away. So we had 3 deaths. My mother's in this medically induced coma, and God is there. And I'll never forget what my girlfriend said to me. And that was the first time I actually could see, that's my first remembrance of seeing. My girlfriend said to me, I don't know what to say, because every time I talk to you, I feel like it's somebody else is dying or something bad is happening. And she goes, how are you standing? And I said, Jesus has his arms wrapped around me. And I literally saw Jesus holding me up like this. I didn't see his face. I knew it was him, but I saw him just like girding me and just holding me up to get through that time. I never had fear. My mother went through 7 surgeries. The doctor said to me, excuse me, that she was probably not going to make it.
Wow.
But what God said when I prayed to him and he said that she was going to recover, that was it. Like, that was it. I didn't listen to the doctor. I said, no, she's gonna walk out of here, and you're gonna see her walk out of here. So,
I think dark times, we always, he always uses those to bring us, teach us his voice and stuff. Let me quickly ask you this, because I've been wanting to know. I think I know the answer, but I don't think I've ever asked you this before. What did you want to be growing up? Did you want to be an actress? Okay, me too. I think we both had that same. And so did you at one point try to pursue that?
I did. That's why I came back to New Jersey.
You came back to pursue?
Yes, and that's why I got to know my husband, because he was a producer of a comedy show.
Okay.
To know the producer, become friends with the producer.
Yeah.
I wasn't interested in him. We were just friends. Right. I was just friends with Rob.
So did you do any theater? Did you land any roles, or did life happen?
I did.
Tell us one.
Oh my gosh. I was in a Neil Simon play, not in just in a local community thing. And it was called God's Favorite, which is based on the book of Job. God is so funny.
And how old were you when you did that?
22. But before that, I did community theater, and I did some commercials, and
And you enjoyed that?
I did, but I laid it down. At 25 years old, I was talking to my brother Rick, and my brother Rick has been like a father to me. And Ricky said to me, he said, you know what, Lisa, if this is not something you want to do, you don't have to pursue this. Because since I was in 3rd grade, people would always say to me, I guess it was 3rd or 4th grade, when I was I started to do some plays, and I was always very theatrical and stuff. And what happened was in 6th grade, we did The Wizard of Oz. I know. There's something about The Wizard. Yeah, I know. So The Wizard of Oz seems to follow me. But anyway, so I auditioned for The Wizard of Oz. And I wanted the role of Dorothy, but I didn't get the role of Dorothy. Instead, I got the role of the Wicked Witch of the West. But it was a redemption role for me, because at that point I was being bullied. I was bullied since 3rd grade. So I was bullied by everybody. But when I played the role of the Wicked Witch of the West, there was something that happened. My dad taught me. And first my dad said to me, because I was so upset I got this role, and he said, "You're the star." And I said, "What?" He said, "There is no Wizard of Oz without the Wicked Witch of the West."
It's true.
That's what he said. And when you're in 6th grade, you believe your daddy. So, and I said, "Well, I don't even know how to cackle." And he said, "I can teach you." And he did. He taught me how to cackle like a witch. And, but what happened, and I was little, I was really little. I was 4 something. I mean, I was 4'10". I was so tiny, but my mother got me this big dress, and we tied it. And what happened is, in the melting scene, when they threw confetti on me, that looked like kind of water, I was able to slowly sink my hands inside of the dress, and I literally looked like I sank, and I melted into the dress.
And that was 6th grade?
That was in 6th grade. And what was
so you were what, 12?
Yeah, something like that. And what was really interesting about it is that I could see through the armpit of this dress. I could actually see the entire school was standing up. They were giving me a standing ovation. The entire school. And I would have never, but it changed. It shifted things from that.
I think I told you I was in a play too, and I had an encounter with the Lord, actually, and because I was bullied, I was really tiny, I was very shy, I had no confidence, and I had this encounter with the Lord when I was 9 years old. And I don't remember exactly what he told or showed me, but once he did, I came out of that going, I thought I'm going to be an actress, And it just so happened that year our class got picked, and I decided I'm going to be Wendy in Peter Pan. And I'm telling you, I worked really hard, really, really hard, and it was fun. It was a fun experience, and I never really pursued after that. So I just think it's cool how it kind of parallels, but we've always known that. I think when we sat down the first time we met, we both kind of had, because I didn't know you had a show. I didn't know anything about you, and we both had words for each other regarding stuff like that. So it was really fun. We had a lot of things in common. So, but that's really awesome. So the C is really fun. So if I interrupted you, I'm very sorry. I don't remember what you were saying now.
That's okay. But what happened is everybody would say to me that they saw me like, well, I'm going to say one day I knew you when, or I knew you when, I'm going to say that. And so what my brother said to me, you don't have to do this just because of the expectations of other people.
Right.
And so I laid it down at 25. And I walked away from it. And so what happened is I actually went to school I did communications, and I kind of switched my idea of like what I wanted to major in school, and I went into communications. And so what was so great is I just got communications so quickly, and I needed to do an internship because I felt that, well, if I do an internship, then I'm going to be marketable. Because, right. I just felt like I was older and I needed to have something behind me. And so I asked Rob, who's now my husband, I asked him if I could do an internship with him. And that's how we started to work together. And that's how God brought us together.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's really awesome. So, so when did you get saved? When do you say, not saved, but when did you have that, just where God just came in just such a different way and just began to turn your life around?
Well, okay. So there's two things that happen. The first thing that happened is after 2002 and after my mother was taken care of, okay, I went to this church, and I was at this church that was, tongue speaking, lay hands on, prophesy, all this stuff, which I've never experienced, which I made fun of. Sorry, because I didn't understand it.
Didn't know.
I didn't understand it. But
I grew up in it, made fun of it.
Yeah. So I'm sitting in the pew, listening to things, and all of a sudden, I felt the presence of God come in. And I felt the presence of God come in such a strong way that I knew that God the Father was in this building. And honestly, Lila, all I wanted to do was to bury myself under the rug. I wanted to dig myself as deep as I could into the dirt to cover myself up because I felt so dirty. I felt so unclean. I felt so disgusting that I just wanted to hide. I truly just wanted to hide. And I was crying and crying and crying, and there was something that shifted inside of me, and I said, okay, that was real, because nobody ever talked to me about that. Nobody ever talked to me about that.
And this was, I'm sorry, how old were you?
I was in my so that would have been 2000. This would have been like 2002 or 2003.
Okay.
And so I was in my 40s. So, and what God started to do is he's so gentle. Yes, he really is gentle. He doesn't just like take you and shake you. Some people he might, but with me, he was very, very gentle. And so what he started to do is he started to show me that he was real. And so I thought that my relationship with God was good. I'm like, hey, we're good.
Right.
And until I think it was in 2009. I was in 2009. I got 3 copies within a couple days of each other, 3 copies of the book, The Shack. Okay. So I had this.
Well, I never read the book.
3, but not 1 copy. 3. I got 3 copies. So apparently God wanted me to read it. And I joked, I'm like, well, I guess I have to read this because, I got 3 copies. But what happened is I hurt my foot, and my foot actually twisted. And I stood up. I put all my weight on my foot, and my foot buckled under, and I heard a snap.
Oh,
and I
gosh.
said, oh no. So they brought like some blankets because I was going into shock. We didn't have
Oh,
any
wow.
insurance at the time, so I didn't want to go to the hospital. So all I did that night is I prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed that God would heal my foot. That's all I prayed. So it did. He did. He healed my foot, because when I did eventually go to the doctors, because I still couldn't really walk on it, it was a really, really, really bad sprain. And so when the doctor said that, they were very surprised that it wasn't broken, because it was a really, really bad sprain. And I was like, I can't believe it's not broken. Rob's like, well, didn't you pray for that? I was like, oh yeah, I did. I did. But I didn't know that God healed.
Right.
But I was so desperate. Because we couldn't afford to go to a doctor. I couldn't do that to my family. I couldn't take money that was put for something else to go and take care of something. And so that was the first thing. Well, so what happened, what happened is, when I got, so I read this book, The Shack. When I read this book, The Shack, which was the next day, I found the God that I always believed was there. And I cried. And my husband, I'll never forget, Rob, he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm reading this book. And he's like, what is all this stuff? I'm like, it's like the best book ever. I mean, I was a mess. I was just a mess. And
well, I think everyone is a mess who's had anything to do with any of the movie or the book. It was just a mess.
So good. And so I wanted to find this God. That's who I was going after. The God in the book that William Paul Young wrote about. That's who I wanted. I didn't want
this is when, so it was really that really sprung your, like, gave you, the just, to go forward, to, push farther than you've ever gone, to really get to know him. So you just really started going after him after that, right?
I pursued him. But Lila, I would pray and I was reading the Bible and I was praying, but I felt like I was hitting a tin ceiling. I felt like my prayers were going up, but they were like smacking something. It just, there was something more, there was something deeper. And so somebody said to me, they said, well, you need the Holy Spirit. And I'm like, well, I think I have the Holy Spirit. I mean, I got confirmed and I got water baptized. So I think I'm good,
Yeah.
But in 2009, I got a phone call. And what happened is somebody said to me, they said, you need to come to this church. It's exactly what you need. It's exactly what you're looking for. And God wants you, and it's going to change your life forever. And God wants you to go. Now, we come to these crossroads in our life where God calls us. We can either say yes or we can say no.
Right.
So I said yes. So I went, and it was the craziest service I've ever been to in my life. Now
you wanted to run away, probably.
It wasn't that I wanted to run. I was intrigued, but I was scared.
Right.
Because the first, there were two women. It's called Shekinah Glory Ministries, and it was just amazing. So the one woman who was speaking was very articulate, and she was a teacher, and she was explaining things, and I was like, I really like this woman. I just was drawn to her. Mm-hmm. Then this other woman came over, and she spoke in tongues, but then she interpreted her tongues, and she sounded like a man, and she scared me. And then she started touching people, and they start falling, and they're like dropping like flies. I'm like,
you're probably thinking, I'm gonna die. I need to leave.
Well, and I was with my dad. My dad happened to be visiting from Florida, and so my dad is with me. And the next thing you know, I'm watching, and the church is running, and they're playing this music, and the church is running around. And so the church is running around, and I hear the Lord say, "Go up there." And I'm like, sorry, but they're running. Like,
not gonna happen.
They're running. Like, and I heard the Lord again say, go up there. And I was like, I'm sorry, Lord, do you not see them running? And what happened is then somebody came and grabbed my dad and said, run with me. And now my dad's running. And I'm standing there and I'm watching my dad run. And the third time I heard the Lord say, go up there. And I said, okay. So I turned back to figure out, should I go to the left? Should I go to the right? And I turned back to figure out how I was going to like run in with the rest of the people, when the woman who was teaching came out of nowhere, grabbed my hand and ran with me. She goes, run with me. So I am like running with this woman, and this woman starts prophesying over me. Now, I didn't know what prophecy was. Right. I had no idea, but all I could tell you is that this woman was reading my mail. She was telling me about a conversation my dad and I had in the car, the exact conversation, exact wordage that I used with my dad, and I'm wrecked. And she brings me to the scary woman who's speaking in tongues.
Scary woman.
And well, because she scared me.
Well, it's
and
true,
this woman grabs my hands and she says, the love of God, the love of Jesus is in your arms, is in your legs, is in your feet. And I don't know what happened. And I fell backwards and I get pulled over to like where they put the spiritual roadkill. And they pull me over and they put this like little blanket, and I'm like, it took me a few minutes to kind of come to my senses. And I'm like, I am spiritual roadkill and somebody's going to step on me because people are jumping over me. And I'm like, I got to get up. This is ridiculous. I got to get up. And I couldn't move, Lila. I couldn't move. I couldn't move a pinky. And I said, or not. I just kind of giggled because at that point, I'm like, I just had to lay there, but I wasn't afraid. So the rest of the service goes on and they do the altar call. And what happens is
Carol says it sounds a little like your retreat.
I was just that's what I'm laughing at.
Yeah,
it does sound like a daddy. We're gonna get to that. Yeah. So what happens is so I'm standing in the back, and this is one of these moments where it was like, okay, Peter, Lord, if this is you, bid me come out of the boat, kind of thing. Because somebody said to me, because we were talking about speaking in tongues, and my father spoke in tongues. He got it supernaturally while he slept. But I didn't have it. And so I was thinking about it. And somebody said, well, I can teach you how to speak in tongues. And I'm like, teach me. I don't want to be taught. Like, I want God to give it to me, Right. So they did the altar call, and at the altar call, it was like, if you don't speak, if you would like to give your life to Christ, raise your hand. I'm doing a checklist. I'm like, I'm good. If you've never, if you've kind of pulled away from God, but you'd like to come back, raise your hand. I'm like, nope, I'm good. I'm doing the mental checklist. If you've never been baptized in the Holy Spirit, I'm like, no, I'm good. Everything's, I'm good until if you don't speak in tongues, raise your hand. And I went, oh, really? It was like,
here I am.
Because I heard the Lord say, well, and at that moment, it's like, okay. So I went up to the front. The woman put her hands on on my cheek, and she's like, okay, start speaking. And I'm like, and so the women next to me are like, bob, bip, bob, beep, 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 bop, bop, boop, boop. I'm like, I don't know what the heck. So I'm like, all right. And so then she comes over and she puts her hands on me. And when she released her hand from me, Lila, my mouth was moving so fast that I didn't even realize I was speaking. It was happening so fast. And it was like crazy, but this is the cool part. I got home. My husband hurt his shoulder blade. He tore his like rotator cuff, and he was like very upset because, again, no insurance. It's going to be thousands of dollars, I'm like, all right. So, and I heard the Lord say, put your hand on his shoulder. So I just put my hand on his shoulder. I didn't say anything. I didn't pray. I just put my hand on his shoulder. I was just being obedient. My husband got healed that night.
That's so cool. Yeah.
But what happened is when I was going to sleep that night, I was in a pitch black room because by the time we got home, because it was down in the Jersey Shore, so I had to drive all the way back. It was pitch black. I would close my eyes, Lila, and it looked like I was looking into sunlight. But then I would open my eyes and it was pitch black. Right. Then I would close my eyes and I was looking into sunlight. And I did this for a couple of times until I realized, well, I'm tired. I want to go to bed. So I guess I'm just going to be looking at the sun all night.
Yeah, I love stories about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. I always find them fascinating. I love to ask people because I feel like, it's like having a baby. Everybody has something different. Everybody has a different story. Everybody has, and I just find it fascinating. Like it's something I love to ask people and to find out about because really it's just so different. But let me ask you about, just so we can move along in time here, because I want us to really get to when I want you to tell us one story about now, because this is now fast forward, right? Working at the makeup counter. Because I love hearing your stories about that. So why don't you pick a story that just really stands out to you, or maybe if people don't know, because where was this at? Macy's or
Lord and Taylor?
Lord and Taylor, you worked as a makeup or what? You tell your story.
Okay.
So I love these. So tell us a story about that.
So after I got filled with the Holy Spirit for an entire year, I spoke in tongues, read the Bible, and I watched Daystar. That's all I did. And my husband said, you can't just watch Daystar and read the Bible. And I'm like, yes, I can. But that's what I did. So, but I was coming close to the end of year 10 and of 2010. We were coming to the end of 2010, and my husband's business wasn't like, it just was kind of drying up. And I heard the Lord say, like, it's time to get a job, go on Craigslist. So I went on to Craigslist and I found a job working for Clinique Cosmetics at Lord and Taylor. So I said, okay. So I went and I told my husband, I said, I'm going to go to Lord and Taylor, get a job and working at Clinique. He goes, they're not going to hire you. Like, don't you have to have, I'm like, and I had cosmetic experience. I was a manager for another Estee Lauder line. And I did that before I got pregnant with my son. But what happened is I went there, and because I love to speak in tongues, and that's what I did, what I would do is when I was doing my busy work, I would walk around my counter and I would just be praying in tongues. That's all I did. And the people who worked in cosmetics knew that I was a believer, that I spoke in tongues, and that there were crazy things that would happen when I was
not
there.
Afraid. She's not afraid.
Oh, heck no.
Yeah, that's what I think is so fun. You're not afraid. You just, this is who I am. This is what I do. Why don't you? Yeah. Come on, everybody, get on the train. Get on the Lisa train. We're going to Jesus. We're all going to go together.
Going to Jesus. That's right. Woo woo. So what happened? I mean, there's so many stories. And what was really interesting is that first, what God did is first I started to prepare the atmosphere. And I didn't know. Like,
you didn't know you were, but you were doing it.
No, I had no idea. So this woman comes to my counter, and she's at I was helping her get like something at the other line, but then she comes back over to my line and we're getting some stuff. And I hear the Lord say, now I didn't know about prophecy and I didn't know about word of knowledge, but I knew that God talked to me. So I just figured he just was talking to me. And he was like, this woman is a Christian. And I was like, oh, okay. So we started to talk, and I was telling her some of the things. She asked me what church I went to. I said, oh, you're a Christian? And she's like, yes, I am. And she goes, what church do you go to? And I told her the name of the church. But what was really interesting is I started to tell her about some of the things that I was seeing. I'm like, oh my gosh. And then I saw this, and then I saw that. And so the woman says to me, oh, she goes, you know that you're a seer. And I went, oh, okay. had no idea what that was. I had no idea what that was. Right. Like, really? I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, is there anything else? And she goes, yes, you're an intercessor. And I said, I'm like, oh, I didn't ask her. Like, I felt like I should have known.
Yeah.
So I just took it. So you
didn't want to, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be, I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. And so I
put that on my resume.
And let me put it on my resume. And well, I will tell you this, that after I found out who I was, things changed, because when I worked there, when I first started, I actually was only part-time. But once I found out who I was and how God started to use me at that counter, within 6 months' time, I was able to be made full-time. When I was at that counter, we were the #1 counter in the store. People couldn't understand the sales that I had. I had $700 sales in Clinique. You do not have $700 sales in Clinique. And so they thought it was like a fluky kind of thing. No. I had a $700 sale, and then I had another $700 sale, because God will confirm what he does. And I would tell my manager, my little counter manager, I would tell her, like, listen, as long as God is being glorified here, you don't have to worry. Our numbers are always be good. And we made bonuses. I mean, she was so happy. But oh yeah. So I read this book. So when I found out that I was an intercessor, I decided to go to a Bible bookstore, and I got a book and there were 4 books on intercessory prayer. I didn't, because it had to be an intercessor. And the book that stood out to me was The Happy Intercessor. So I was
why would you want to be a sad one?
Exactly. I'm like, I'm happy. Do you not see the big smile?
I do know a lot of sad intercessors.
Because that's what they think they're supposed to do. But so I said, well, if I'm going to be an intercessor, I want to be a happy one. And so what was so great is that I was able to find out what a seer was, because she taught Benny Johnson.
Isn't that amazing how, sometimes we're afraid, and people out there, maybe we don't know things or whatever, but I cannot, my journey with the Lord is similar, where, most of my most exciting times and most of my greatest journey with the Lord was never in church or when people told me things. It was when the Holy Spirit would take me somewhere and lead me to, well, you should get that book. And then you read it and you're like, oh, this is everything I was thinking. How did you know? And then the song on the radio. And then if, some stranger comes and tells you something that was on your heart. And it's just the most exciting time. So especially when you don't know, and I think that's why it says return to your first love, when God reminds us, like, restore to me the joy of your salvation. I always used to ponder that, and I think it's in Psalm 51, restore to me the joy of your salvation. I used to think, what is that? Well, it's the time when, in my mind, it's the time when you first find out who he is. You begin to have this. So I love these little journeys, and that's what you were doing. You're in this exciting time. You're in this revelation time. You're in this time where you're discovering all these amazing things about God and about yourself. And then you're setting these women down, and you're just telling them the same thing, and all this crazy things happening.
I mean, the things that I saw at my counter, once I knew who I was, people got healed. Miracles were happening at my counter. There was a woman who had a hump on her back.
I've been on some crazy department store miracle journeys with you.
We were.
I think all the Dillards got saved, but anyway.
Yeah. And that's what happens. Like when you go in, well, all right. So I'm going to talk about that, because that was so, we wrecked.
That was crazy. That was the second time, by the way. The second time, because we've been to Charlotte, North Carolina twice.
Yeah.
To be there for Dave and
to the Sid Roth taping.
To the Sid Roth team. And while we were there, Lisa decides she has some friends there, whatever, and there's somebody that needs prayer. And that somebody needing prayer turned into we were upstairs, downstairs, we were in the clothing, the makeup, the bags, the shoes, everybody. It was crazy. It was great. We were supposed to be there just a little bit, and it just exploded. People are crying.
I have to tell you. So I was listening to this Sean Bowles. Sean Bowles had this beautiful conference that you went to. that you went to in California.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
was Graham Cook was there, right?
Graham Cook was there, and William Paul Young.
And Paul Young. But what was so crazy is Graham Cook said there's going to be a day that people are going to be excited when the Christians come.
Yes, I saw. Yes, right? Yes, I remember that.
So when I was listening to that, I was listening to it. I started because it was like, they're here.
They're
the
here.
Christians are coming.
Gosh, that was such a great teaching.
And I was bawling as I'm listening to this. But what was so cool about it is that when we went to Dillard's, because my girlfriend, because she worked with me at Lord and Taylor, she said, Lisa, you got to pray over this one. You have to pray over this one. We have to pray over that one. And
yeah, so we had to split up because there were so many people that wanted prayer.
Many people.
And then we're praying for somebody, and this lady keeps, me and Lisa, we're praying for this other one while Lisa's running around the store praying for these people. And because there wasn't enough of us, and this woman, just a bystander that wasn't, because these were all employees. Of Dillard's. Yep. These were all employees, and one person would say, go to this person, go to the, it was crazy. It was like, where are we? But then an innocent person not an innocent, but a person walking by kept watching me and Lisa pray for this other person. And we said, you want prayer, don't you? And she's like, yes, please. I want some of that. I mean, it was crazy.
And it was fun. That was the thing, is that they started to say, where are your friends? I need prayer. Where are they? They're here. Oh, they're here. Oh, and they were running. They were coming. They were running, and they were getting wrecked. The word of knowledge, people were getting healed. People were getting delivered. We prayed over this one woman, and she was not doing well in her sales. The next day, she was number one. She was number one in the department. The day after that, her store actually beat a couple other stores. I mean, it was just incredible.
Because was she the manager? That's the first one we prayed for.
Well, we prayed over. I mean, we were praying over everybody. I don't know.
Well, I know, but when we first went in there, wasn't it her, like,
we were praying over
everybody just loved her. Yeah, right.
We were praying over the store manager, and we were praying, and then we were praying over different women from different departments, and there was this woman who I think she was Indian, right? Wasn't she Indian? And she turned away.
Yep.
And she was so excited.
Excited.
Because they heard the stories. See, when I was at Lord and Taylor, there was this one time this woman came in, and I'm wearing now at Clinique, you wore like a doctor's like white coat, because they're very clinical, We're supposed to be like, the skin experts. So what was so funny is this woman comes in and she says, she goes, do you work for Clinique? I'm wearing a Clinique coat. I said, yes, I do. And she said, do you know, she goes, are you Lisa? And it says Lisa right on my name tag, right? I'm like, yeah. And she goes, and then she looks at me and she goes, do you know things? And I said, yes, I do. She goes, well, it's true. So I said to her, she goes, my girlfriend was here and you told her things. So can you tell me things? And I said, well, I can only tell you what God tells me. I said, so if it's okay, can I pray over you? And that's always been, I always ask people's permission. Always ask people's permission. Can I pray over you? Can I touch you? Can I do this? Can I do that? I always ask, because if somebody's not ready, and there have been times that I've had to ask difficult questions. Like I had to say to a woman, because the Lord said it to me, tell her that she's tried to commit suicide on several occasions. I'm like, heck no, I'm not saying that. But I heard the Lord say it again. Actually, I said, devil be gone. That's because I thought it was the devil. That was the first thing. Satan, get behind me. Like, don't be telling me crazy stuff. Then it was said again, tell her that she tried to commit suicide on several occasions. And I'm like, heck no, I'm not doing that. Are you kidding me? I'm going to get in trouble. No. Third time, Lisa, tell her that she tried to commit suicide on several occasions. And I went, oh, now I knew it was him. Now I knew it was real. And I knew he wanted it done. So I just tried to figure out how to approach this extremely sensitive issue. And I said to the woman, I said, I need to ask you a question. And she says, Lisa, you can ask me anything. Now, I mean, I just met this woman, but you can ask me anything. She trusted me. And I said, this is a very difficult subject. And I said, and I don't want you to think that I'm judging you or anything. And she goes, no, she goes, Lisa, you can ask me anything. And I said, did you try to commit suicide on several occasions? And now I have her in my makeup chair. I'm trying to put makeup on her and she starts bawling. And as soon as that word was released, the next thing that came out of my mouth was, because the Lord said she was sexually assaulted as a child. And so I was like, okay. And so I said, it's because you were abused as a child. And I said, but it's not your fault. It was never your fault. And she's freaking out. And she's like, it's like you're in my head, because nobody knew this. Right. Nobody knew that she was abused as a child. Nobody knew that she tried to commit suicide. The last thing that the Lord said, I said, there are days that you feel that you look beautiful, but when you go to the mirror, you're disappointed by the image you see. Now, again, tears. And I'm thinking to myself, Lord, where are we going with this? This is not good.
This is not good. She's not happy. She's crying.
She's not happy. She's crying. And now I got to start the makeup process all over again. And what comes next is he says, but I said to her, but that feeling of being beautiful is not yours. It's coming from God, because he sees you as beautiful and he wants you to see yourself as beautiful.
Powerful.
She was wrecked. So go ahead.
That's why I love, well, I mean, you know, especially in today's age, especially women, we're so beat up. We beat up ourselves, you know, just all the competition, all the things that we have to go through. You know, all of us women have these stories where we look in the mirror and we don't. And what I love is that the Lord, he understands where we're at. He understands what we're going through. And he always, one word from him, one word shatters lies and could be decades of lies. And one word of truth, right, breaks us out of that and just brings so much healing. And it's just something simple. You're beautiful.
Yeah.
You're beautiful.
Mm-hmm. And that's the whole thing, is that, so there were so many different encounters. As I said, women were healed. There were women who were delivered at my counter. There were women who I had word of knowledge for. There was a woman who lost her son and didn't know why he died, that the Lord showed me exactly how he died. Mm-hmm. And I shared that with her. And she said, I always knew that God was going to send a stranger to tell me how my son died. And I told her that he was in heaven. And I told her what he was wearing the day that they buried. And I told her such things. And she said, did you read the paper? Because the things that I told her, like, because he died at a public place, it actually changed the way that they do things. And he is saving lives because of his death. And she goes, did you just read the newspaper? And I said, no, they just gave like a certificate because of what happened to him. Things were changed at this public arena. Oh, and it was in his honor. It was in his honor. And they were there. But I didn't know this. See, that's the beautiful thing. See, in the Bible, it talks about how God used a donkey to get information to somebody. Right. I'm like, no, if he can use a donkey, he can use me. Right. Because I don't know anything. I mean, I don't know anything. I
kind of think that, well, you know, anyone who's been following the Lord for any amount of time, you kind of go through this beginning period where you don't know anything, and then you start to come to this period where you start to think, oh, I'm starting to get this, and now I know things. And then when you really walk with the Lord, you fall down a whole bunch of times and things get all screwed up, and you remember, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then once you get back to that place, you can come back to that excitement place and just, kind of deprogram yourself. And
I asked the Lord once, because my husband Rob would always joke. He would always joke with me, and I would come home and I would tell him my stories, and because this kind of segues into kind of this. So I would come home and I would tell him my stories, and he would say, lipstick or prayer? Oh, you need prayer? Lisa will be in 15 minutes. So I would say that, and there was one time I said it to a customer, and I heard the Lord say, that's going to be the name of your book. And I went, whoa, wait, no, I don't know, no, I don't rate. Nope.
Well, it's so funny that you used to think that, because, you actually started blogging, and you were a phenomenal blogger.
Well,
and
thank you.
I'm just really good at it. You're very natural at it. It's true. I'm not trying to you're just taking a compliment. You're very good at it. You really are. You have a way to put things in writing that is just really interesting. It's very to the point. It's refreshing. It's fun. It's always fun, because that's just who you are. It comes out. So I love the way your words come out. It's just a fun way to get to see who you are. That's what's so fun about authors, right? I remember, one of my favorite authors, not just because he's my friend, is Praying Medic. I mean, I connected to his books immediately, and I don't like to read. I really don't. I just don't. If I do, something catches my interest, I'll read it right away. I don't want to read it later. I want to read it all now. And Praying Medic, when I would read his books, I always had this feeling of like, someone was in the room and telling a story, and I could just see, and it was just so easy. And I feel like the same with, and you could just see who he is before I ever met him. And because I know you, it's just really fun. It's just a fun way to see these different aspects of you, because the way you write is different than the way you speak, even though it's similar in some nature. So it's just a fun to see these different attributes of you, these different facets of you, because there's so much more to you than just the Lisa on Touched by Prayer. And that's why I thought it would be so fun to do this. I mean, there really is, Lisa, you really are. Again, I'm not just saying this because you're my friend. This is how I felt. And I'm sure a lot of people, just when they met you, they just love how fun and joyous you are. You love to love. You love to give. You love to have fun. And that's very attractive, and you're just like, hey, no, come over here. We're going to be happy. This is the happy place. We come to Lisa's happy space. And it's just really cool. And then even watching you on the show, and when you meet new people, and even when I see, and then the different Lisa, when we went into Dillard's and I got to see that aspect of you, I mean, just very confident, very, what I liked about it is you just didn't second guess anything. I love that childlike faith that you had. You just really have this childlike faith. You're like, well, that's my daddy, and he loves you, and he loves me, and we're all going to be happy, and he's here for you. And I think that's so needed and so refreshing, because we don't need all this other stuff, but we do need someone who we feel cares, and someone who, that seems happy, as Tracy is saying. It's true. We need someone who's happy, and, not so, you don't like blow all this jargon around. You're just very matter of fact. And, I've loved, it's already 7. Did you know that? Can you believe that? Well, 7 my time. In Arizona. But, so I thought this was fun, but we didn't even get to talk about how you,
well, I mean, if you can go, I'm good. I'm not.
Okay. Yeah. I have another 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's fine.
I just have to run somewhere after this, but so, yeah, so let's get to that. Let's get to Touched by Prayer, or did you already get to that?
Well, what
are we talking about the book?
Well, okay, so God started to move me into a place after being at Lord and Taylor, And but not just at Lord and Taylor. I mean, Rob and I have different kinds of words because like I prayed over somebody with my other friend Lisa, and we were in a McDonald's, and so Rob calls it Nick Prayer. You know, if I'm driving in a parking lot and I see somebody limping, I'm like, stop the car. Rob calls those a drive-by. So I mean, there's all these like different things. And when I would go to church, I would close the church. It's just who I am because there are so many people who need prayer. So so what happened is I went to Voice of the Prophet back in 2013. Larry Randolph said that there are people here who have not been given permission to walk into their destiny. And so if there's something you'd like to do, please stand up and we'd like to, you know, get you into your destiny. So I stood up and he said, what's your name? And I said, my name's Lisa. And he said, okay, Lisa, what would you like to do? And I said, well, I'd like to be on TV. And he said, can you be more specific? And I said, I'd like to be a talk show host. And he says, Lisa, we release you into being a talk show host. And that was it. That was it. But then what happened, so that was in May of 2013. In October of 2013, Rob, my husband, starts talking about, you know, I think I overhear him having a conversation saying, I think that we're going to have a internet talk show. So he gets off the phone. I'm like, who's having an internet talk show? And he says, you are. I go, I am? He says, yeah.
Wow.
And I go, about what? And he goes, about what you do. Because that's what he called it, what you do. And I said, what? He goes, yeah, it's what you do. And he goes, you'll talk about that and you'll interview people. Yeah, that's what we're going to do. So I start praying about it. And I asked the Lord, I said, Lord, if this is really from you, I don't even have a name. And he said, your brother does. So I called my brother Rick. And Rick had two names. And one of them was Touched by Prayer. When we looked up Touched by Prayer wasn't owned by anybody. So for $9.99, I got it. I got .com, .net, .org. I got it all. So I knew that that was my name. So my very first episode of Touched by Prayer, I was going to interview somebody who was my spiritual daughter at the time. She still is my spiritual daughter, but she was going to come and we were going to talk about how God connects people. That's what we were going to kind of talk about. And there was a big snowstorm. So but I committed to do this and I committed it to God. And so I did it. And so January 16th of 2014, I did my first Touch by Prayer where I just spoke for an hour, just me. And I just talked and I just told my story and maybe 5 people listened, but it was a start. And so and then the next Tuesday, I asked somebody at church, I said, listen, you're leading divorce care. There's a lot of hurt divorced people. Let's talk about your journey and let's talk about the whole thing. Because the Lord started talking to me about what Touched by Prayer was. And it was about how God touches people and how powerful prayer is. So I just started to interview people from my church because they didn't know anybody. But God had a way because I think it was a couple of months into it. I saw Jonathan Welton recommend a book called The Longest Bridge Across Water by this guy named Jeremy Mangersheen. And I was like,
That's another one of those books, one of those authors.
Let me just wait, but let me just tell you something about divine appointments. So I'm kind of checking it out. And the Lord says to me, he said it, friend request him. So I friend requested Jeremy Mangersheen. Then I wanted to read his book, but I didn't want to pay $15 for a book. So I said, Lord, I want to read this book, but I don't want to pay $15. I just can't. Next day, today only, $1.99 on Kindle. I'm like, done. Read the book, loved the book.
Right.
Wrote a nice little endorsement on it because it, and what happened is we started to kind of banter back and forth on Facebook. And I eventually asked him if he wanted to do my show. So he was like pretty much my first kind of.
Was that 2000?
That was, I think it was in 2004, the end of 2014, or it could have been 15. Okay. But when I talked, if you've ever had a conversation with me, it's not 5 minutes.
Right.
It's just not. It's never. I mean, even Dave Hayes is like, all right, like, we can't have a long conversation. And I go, okay, but we always do. because
Right.
it's just
Well,
like,
yeah, and Dave, funny enough, Dave is the same way.
yeah.
Dave
So
can't have a short conversation.
no, and so the two of us. But what
Neither can
happened
I.
is, so I talked to Jeremy, and I booked him for my show. I just instantly just loved this guy, and I just wanted to promote his stuff, and we've just become really, really close, and he's just wonderful. And then he, after doing my show, said, Lisa, I would really like to introduce you to this guy. He goes by Praying Medic. His name is Dave Hayes. He said, but he goes by Praying Medic, but I really think you guys need to connect. So then I talked to Dave. I talked to Dave and Denise, and then I had them on the phone. And then I had him on my show. Then he said, why don't you meet this person? Why don't you meet that then then Michael Fram listened to a show where I was going to interview this girl. And the reason I'm talking about these particular individuals, it's because these are going to be my guests for my 200 show. So I just want you to understand. Yeah. See, there's method to the madness. So what happened is I was interviewing this girl who was going to YWAM out in Hawaii. And so we were going to talk about, like, here I am, Lord send me. Because I would always come up with like a cute little like name for each show. So as I was driving to work, because I was still working at Lord & Taylor at the time. So the Lord said to me, I want you to do a show about prophecy. And I'm like, prophecy? I'm like, I don't really know any prophets. He says, you're going to do it. I'm like, I'm going to do it? He says, you're going to do it. So I said, okay. So I told her, listen, we're going to do a show about prophecy. And she goes, I don't know anything about prophecy. I said, it's fine. I said, it'll be fine. But I actually interviewed this guy who was dating my spiritual daughter at the time. And I had him call in and I prophesied over him. And Michael Fram happened to watch it because he knew him. And what happened is
Dave is watching.
And Dave is watching. I know. Hi, Dave. I know. I was just talking about you.
We were just both talking about you. Your ears must have been burning.
And so Michael Fram then started to converse with me. And so then I had Michael Fram on the show. Then I went back to Dave and I was like, oh no, I might have been Jeremy. I said to Jeremy, and I said to Jeremy, I said, I would really like to get Jesse Berkey on. I think Dave might have even mentioned you should have Jesse Berkey on. So then I reached out to Jesse Berkey and I had Jesse Berkey on. So, and Jesse Berkey's going to be on my 200 show. And then of course, Tyler Johnson was another person that I think Jeremy recommended that I connect with because he has some great books and stuff.
So I does that.
So I have that. And because of Dave, I will say that Dave has really blessed me in just introducing me to some pretty incredible and amazing people. Gosh, I mean, you and Ginny and Karen and the people who I consider my tribe.
Right. I mean, and isn't that where we all met? Because did you know Ginny before then?
Yes, I did. Because I was doing Vim with Jesse. So Jesse has a thing, it's called Video Interactive Ministries.
Right, Vim.
And so I think it was like his,
back, by the way.
Yes, it was like either his second or his third show. He asked me and he asked Dave to be on the show together. So we were on the show together, and that's when
I think I've seen that.
Yeah, and I think we did it twice. I think we did it twice. But I think that's when Paul actually had a word for me. And so I started to talk to Paul and Paul Wilcox, Jenny's husband. And then I started talking to Jenny. And then we started to kind of really go back and forth. And I said, hey, guys, why don't you guys come on Touch by Prayer? And so Touch by Prayer is really, it's not about a platform. It's about relationships. It's about people's different relationships with God. And that's the whole thing that I love about Touch by Prayer.
I'm getting distracted. Like, all of our friends are on right now, and it's really exciting.
I know.
I wish we could all be having a party right now. We could like go back to Charlotte where we all had so much fun.
Well, we got to get Dave back on Sid Roth.
How do you keep? Yes, there you go. Or we could get you on Sid Roth. There you go.
Well, it's been prophesied.
There you go.
I got to get my book written. That's
You got to get your book written. It's so exciting. Hi, everyone. Just all of our great friends, Jenny and just Dave and Tracy, and it's just fun out there. Sending love to everyone.
And that's the whole thing about Touched by Prayer. Touched by Prayer has touched people.
Right.
The one thing that God really started to do is he started to talk to me about that it's so important that you minister to the one. So it's like, because when I first started Touched by Prayer, I asked Rob, I said, how many people watched? And I think he said, I don't know, 10 people. I said, okay. So I was in the car and I said to the Lord, I said, Lord, I said, 10 people. I go, seriously, 10 people? I said, you could do so much better than that. And he said to me, he goes, Lisa, if one person listens to your show and gives their life to me, is it worth it?
Amen.
And I said, yes. 3 weeks later, I got a text message from somebody who listened to my show. And because of my show, they said, because of listening to your show, I gave my life to Christ. Wow. And it happened to be my cousin's daughter.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's a family affair.
It is. It really is. And Lila is going to be on the Sid Ross show.
There you go. She'll be, yes.
Okay, we're all going together. I do better in groups. Let's just all go together. Although I do like to talk just as much as Dave and Lisa, but
yes. And and that's the whole thing, is that I once said to Dave, after he did his show on Sid Roth, I had a vision and I saw a barrel full of monkeys. And I saw that Dave was the top of the monkey and he was linking arms. And
that's right. I remember that.
Up. Mm-hmm. And that's really the way it's supposed to be, because I'll pull up as many people as I can. I'll take whoever wants to come along with me. We
go together. I mean, we're all one body. We go together. Where
we go one, we go all.
Unless we all go. Yeah.
That's it. And that's the whole thing. And that's the whole thing with Daddy's Girls, because the people that I've had at my Daddy's Girl conference are people who have been on Touched by Prayer. These are relationships. That's the other thing too, is that I don't just do a show. I build friendships and relationships with the people.
And I think that's so important. And really, that's what it's all about. That's what God is trying to remind us all. And really, all of us met through relationship with, and that's something we could talk about. Something I'll always remember is that encounter. I believe that we had a supernatural encounter that very first meeting with Dave and Denise and Charlotte, when we all met. Everybody was talking about it. I've heard. I've been listening to this one guy who said 2 years ago began the movement of learning to love one another and just loving each other. And it was like, wow, 2 years ago, this kind of encounter happened. And look at all the relationships we've built since then. And they're true relationships. They're not just, hi, how are you? There's a true love for one another. There's a true honor for one another. You see it all the time. You don't see the competition. You see love and relationships. And I think that's what makes Touched by Prayer, like you said, so fun. And Daddy's Girls, for that matter. Daddy's Girls was a blast. I didn't get to go to the second one, but it was amazing. And it was all because it was all about relationship. It wasn't just sitting there and listening to people, even though amazing speakers. Everybody knows Lila can only take so much before she's spinning around in her chair. I need to talk to people. I need to talk to people. I need to connect with people. And there was so much of that. And it was really why we have so many, a lot of my friends came out of, meeting people at Dave's and meeting people there, because it was true. People that none of them live here in my city. They're all over the place on Facebook. And it's just amazing how we can connect. It's just amazing.
And God is so good.
He is. He is
so good. And he is so faithful. And he's connected people for purposes, because the things that if you really think about it, the people that I've been connected to and the people that because of my connection, have connected with other people. You know, we're like connect the dots. That's really who we are. And when we connect together, there is such a greater strength in what we do, you know. And I just believe that, you know, that's one of the things that God really wanted, is he wants us to be together, to be a unit. I don't believe that he wants us to be doing things on ourselves. And that's been my heart cry. That has been my biggest heart cry.
He really doesn't. And we need each other. And the thing is, you know, all the problems really, it's just so simple, just like the Bible says. I mean, love. It comes down to love. And when we learn to love, then we will be able to be there for each other. I mean, look at the anxiety, the fear, the depression, the all the things going on, and there's no community. People feel lonely because of the masks. And, you know, there are some terrible things, you know, with Facebook and all that, it kind of took away. But I believe God's bringing that back. He's using it to make more connections. And I feel like, you know, we're on the cusp of learning how to love each other, and we're going to start to love each other more. I think we're going to have some little rubbing, you know, it says knit together, which doesn't sound very comfortable if you think about being knit, but, you know, we need community. I know I do, and I know that how it's changed my life, and I know that my community out here needs community. So I think that, you know, these different things that we do and the connections that it brings to our lives, being real connections are what it's really all about. Real loving connections.
Absolutely. And I think that's what we do best, actually. Right. I think that when we all get together, that God is just like, oh yes, there's my girls. There's my girls. You know, that's what I believe that he gets so excited about when he sees us all doing things together and loving each other and supporting each other and encouraging one another. And I think that's one of the things that I have been so humbled by having this opportunity to meet some of the biggest influences in my life, Darren Wilson, William Paul Young, to know the author of The Shack, and to know that he knows me because of what God has done, not because of what I've done, because I do nothing. I don't. No, I'm being very serious. I'm not trying to be, you know, I'm just saying that, you know, God has been he's been so good to me. He's been so good to me, and he has just blessed me with these opportunities to touch women in the Daddy's Girl conferences and to see lives transformed. Like, I've seen women change. I mean, just like become alive. And it's not because of anything I'm doing. It's just because it's almost like the Kevin Costner movie. If you build it, they will come. And I just build this place. I build this altar. And I just say, Lord, I'm building this for you. Just come and just be present and just be you, and just show them how awesome you are and how good you are and how faithful you are, because that's who I know. That's what I know. Every single show, every single person that I encounter, they will know something when they leave me. And they will know that I have a relationship with God, that he is faithful, that he is good, that he says and does what he says he's going to do. And he is a good daddy. He sure is. That's going to be my legacy. People aren't going to say about anything else. They're going to say, what do you know about Lisa Perna? She knows her daddy. Amen. That's it. That's the only thing I want to be known as.
Amen. Me too.
Right?
Me too.
So, and we're going to have another Daddy's Girl conference in 2019, which Lila's going to come to.
Yes, I am.
Yes, she is. She's going to be there, and it's going to be incredible because he gave me the first two, which was Daddy's Girl, Walking as a Daughter of the King, Knowing Our Identity. The second one was Unlocking Our Inheritance. And the third one is going to be ruling and reigning in the kingdom.
Amen.
And this is all based, it's all based out of Romans 8. And I didn't even know it. No, I
so
did.
cool.
No, seriously, I didn't know. Like when God tells me something, like half of the things that he says, I don't even know. I just don't even know. It's crazy. Like I have actually spoken out like diagnoses, you know, of things, and it's just blown my mind.
When God does stuff like that, it's still really cool. It's still fun to hear people say, "How did you know that?" You're like, I don't. Trust me. I can barely figure out where one shoe is in the other. I don't know these things. Trust me.
Absolutely.
I know nothing.
Well, this has been so much fun.
Oh my gosh, this is so much fun. I really love that our friends are all on. Really, really awesome. And I'm glad that people have got to see Lisa in a different light. People have got to hear about there's so many exciting things coming. I know that you're working on a book, and we'll be excited to look for that maybe in 2019. I really feel like that's coming, and I'm very excited for it. I think that there's just many more. I think all of us were in this place of transition, but it's fun to stop and remember and just to go through and for people just to get to see you in a side they didn't know. And so I thank you for letting me come on and just getting to hear more about you, because I love to hear about one of my amazing friends, and it's just been fun. It's been a fun friendship, and you know, we know each other off of Facebook. We know each other personally. We've been there for each other. We've been into each other's lives. We know the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you know, we need that. We need people that we can call. We need people that will call us. And I feel like, you know, you've been one of those people, and I hope that I have been one of those people, and that we just continue. And to all my friends on, you know, I'm trying to learn how to be a better friend as I'm learning how to be God's friend. And I think this is something that's important, because like I said, we need each other. Like the body of Christ is supposed to be one. We're supposed to be one that doesn't break wings. You know, we're supposed to be those, and we can't do that without each other. We can't do that without relationship. And I know that for me, I starve for relationship sometimes, and it's my own self that kind of keeps things away. But the friendships I do have, I value, and yours is very much one that I value. And you know where you have been for me in this last season, and you know the things that you have done for me. And so I just personally want to say, just in front of everyone, thank you, Lisa, for being such a good friend to me, because you really, really have been a really good friend to me. And I just love you, and I love everything that God is doing through you. And you have many more amazing stories, and I hope that you put them in your book. And I hope that lots of people, and you know, Daddy's Girls is just this thing, but there's teenage girls, there's just so many girls that, not that you're called to only women, but you know you have a strong calling in women. And I just see, just the young girls. I see you just really putting this book in their hands. I see, because I think this book is the reason that it hasn't been written yet, is not only that you haven't really been able to get to it, it's just I feel like there's going to be some other stuff added, and it's going to take a turn that you didn't really see maybe at the first part, because I see young women being touched by this thing, and learning who they are and getting an identity, and it really speaking to them, because you just have such a, you're just, lots of us have many different things, and you're called to many different things. But you know, I just feel like right now, I don't know why I'm not trying to prophesy. I'm not saying I'm even prophesying. I just keep seeing all these young girls all around you, and younger than some of us on here, more your daughter's age. I see, 25 and under. I just see them, and I see just this message that you have for them, and I see it impacting them. So I'm going to look for that soon.
I love that. I receive that. And that is a spot on word. That is definitely a spot on word, because I do believe that there is definitely a tapping into that generation. Daughters,
Yeah.
yes. Shelly
Well,
Varga,
I'm
yes.
excited. I'm so excited about Daddy's Girls, and I'm excited about your book. I'm excited to read some more blogs and your 200th show. When is that?
That is next week, and that's with Dave Hayes, praying medic.
What?
It has Jesse Berkey. It has Jeremy Mangershina. It has Apostle Michael Fram. It has Tyler Johnson. It is going to be packed full of stuff. Packed.
Man, I need to write a book so I can be on with all of these people. No, I'm just
I
kidding.
mean, it is just to see what God has done, and just to and Lila, you did such an incredible job. You really did. You really did an incredible job, and I love you so much, and you know how important you are to me. And I don't want to get gushy, but you have called out my gold.
Yay! It's not hard to do.
You're very sweet. and thank you guys for watching and for being with me through this journey, and just traveling with me and coming to Daddy's Girls. And Tony Impson, I want you to come to Daddy's Girls. I want Tony Impson.
Yes. Oh my gosh, she's amazing.
Yes, I would love to have Tony, and I'm trying to to bring in some new things. So, but I am very, very excited about what God is doing, and He is faithful.
Love you, Mama Karen.
He is just, He's going to do amazing things. And Lila, I think that this is not going to be our last broadcast together. I believe that. I believe that Daddy has some things that we're going to be doing together. Just saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Just saying.
Yep.
Just
well, this
saying.
has been so much fun, and I just want to shout out to Mom Karen. I just really wanted to send her a special message. She's also been someone that has just been so amazing, over the top in my life, and I just wanted to send you out a special thank you, Karen. You are just amazing. You're just an amazing woman. You're such a rock. You're such a blessing, and you are just so important. And I just cannot wait to see what God is doing more in your life. But I love that you are just who you are, through and through, just who you are, and who you are is just perfect and amazing. So I just want to tell you that.
I agree. And just the people who have poured in to both of our lives, you know, right. Jenny Wilcox, Paul Wilcox,
right.
Dave Hayes,
we're so
Tracy
lucky.
Mahalik. I mean, seriously, like we
got the best friends ever.
We do. I have been poured into on times when I just wanted to give up, and God was just saying, nope. Nope. There's more to do. Well,
this was so much fun. Yay.
Thank you. Oh, this was so much fun.
All of you, and thank you so much, Lisa, for letting me be a guest host.
Absolutely.
And we'll do this again.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for tuning in to Touch by Prayer. Remember to go out and touch someone.
Amen.
Good night.